Welcome to the GateDrop podcast. GateDrop.com, giving you the jump in motocross news.
Hello and welcome to another GateDrop.com podcast. This week has been quite busy. We're going to look at MXGP from Maggiora, AMX 125, EMX Open, and a wee bit of AMA Motocross chat from Redbud. So we'll welcome Andy McKinstry on board. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Fantastic weekend of racing. That's what it's all about. Starting off with the European Championships Saturday during the day, then the best in America Saturday night, and then Sunday was the best in the world. So frantic weekend of action. It was brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, and there was some good racing across all classes, but I think we're going to have to start with MXGP. And first of all, the track. Whenever you see pictures of that track, it just looks unbelievable. It makes you wish you could ride the track yourself. All the undulation, the scenery around the circuit, and it races quite well. Although I felt for MXGP they overdid it maybe with the water, and there was quite a lot of ruts, but not all the ruts were usable in the first moto. But as things went on, the second MX2 moto, the track was really good. There was more ruts that riders could use to try and make passes or take opposite lines, and the track was going to be brilliant for that final MXGP moto. And then the rain came, and we all saw what a survival fest that was with the slick hills. But the track was a wee bit funny first moto. Quite some of the riders also mentioned it was quite hard to pass, but it actually did develop a lot better later on. So definitely one of my favorite tracks to watch, with the track and also the history behind that track with Disnations in '86. Disnations we had in, I think it was 2016 as well. So a lot of history there, a lot of good GPs there, and there was only 1,000 fans, I think, in Italy, but they still made their presence felt with plenty of passion for the Italian riders, and also an Italian Grand Prix winner. So we'll start with the MXGP class first, and Jeffrey Hurlings, the winner after things weren't going too good first moto. He did start pole position, so you could see a slight, maybe more intent this weekend. And in the first moto, he didn't look like he was content to let Geiser beat him as such this time, unlike the first two where he looked a bit more patient. You could see there was a wee bit more edge in his riding. Geiser cut him off coming out of the first turn from the start gate in race one, and Hurlings was shadowing him pretty good in that first one until the back brake. The stone got caught in the back brake, and something happened from there. The conservative Hurlings trying to be patient, that just went completely out the window, and he maybe needed that just to get angry and just ride his real pace, as it were, because from there he was putting in lap times that no one else could match, and he was doing it through the field on a track that isn't really going to be his forte, really, and he was still putting down some blistering laps. So that was the first time anybody had really seen the real Jeffrey Hurlings and the real pace. So a sixth place behind his title rival doesn't seem good on paper, but that was actually the race that seemed to ignite the momentum for Jeffrey Hurlings this season, and he was back to being the fastest man on the planet. On second race, he rode conservative, but he got a good start, so he had the chance to do that behind Glenn Coldenhoff. It looks like he's even preserving his goggles and stuff. And then when he had the opportunity, he went for it, made it happen. Took the win, went from fourth to first overall with that pass on Glenn Coldenhoff, first GP win of the season. 6 points just behind Tim Geiser now, coming into his home Grand Prix in the sand. And it looks like there might have just been a momentum shift in the championship with Jeffrey Hurlings in Italy.
Yeah, just to start with on the track, to be perfectly honest, I enjoyed the track all weekend. I thought it was very good. On Sunday morning, even though it was quite flat, it was slippery, so it wasn't just pin it to win it. And then it got quite technical already for the first set of races. Yeah, it was a wee bit one line, but there was more passes made than I thought it was going to be. The likes of Van Hoorbeek came from way outside the top 20. Fernandez, Renault, guys like that were able to make passes. You just had to be really aggressive. So it was good racing, I thought. And then it was just getting lovely. In the second MX2 moto, the track was lovely, technical, really nice track. And then the rain came and absolute treacherous out there for the last moto, brutal conditions. So yeah, I enjoyed the track. It was nice to see them race a technical track again after Matterley just being very fast and flowing, but different conditions, different week and different GP. So that's what it's all about, racing the variation that the MXGP has to offer. Jeffrey Hurlings, yeah, vintage Jeffrey Hurlings was back at the end of that first moto. Unbelievable speed. I mean, Paul's Jonas was absolutely flying, and I think Hurlings took 8 seconds out of him in 2 or 3 laps. So most people would have settled for the 7th, but it's actually a good job. He went for the 6th and passed PJ, because in the end, that more or less won him the Grand Prix. And I think Geiger was a wee bit conservative, similar to the first moto at Mallory Basin. I think in hindsight, if he knew that Hurlings was going to get up to 6th, he probably would have been a wee bit more aggressive and tried to pass Codenhoff and Crowley. So, but in the end, Hurlings rode really well in the second moto as well. He bided his time and behind Codenhoff, saved his goggles, and when he felt the time was right, went for it. So that's now the 3rd different winner in 3 GPs. After Russia, I think we all thought Geiger was going to be a hard man to stop, but the championship battle is very, very exciting now with 3 different winners. And you have to mention Tony Caroli after the DNF in Russia to get himself in a position to only be 19 points behind. And every race that he's finished, he's been no worse than 3rd. So the championship battle's shaping up lovely heading into some sand now.
And Crowley must ruin that mistake in Russia, because without that, if you give him 22 points, he would actually have been leading the championship now, which is testament to his ability and consistency so far this season.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very consistent. He's definitely looks in better condition this year after the knee injuries and some injuries this past few years. And I think the no triple formats also benefit him. So, but also it's these tracks. These aren't really his favourite tracks, and to be finishing so consistently in the top 3, I think he'll be very, very motivated for the sand now. I cannot wait to see how the sand GPs goes. Usually, if it's vintage Jeffrey Hurlings shows up, you would usually pick Hurlings to win in sand. But with Crowley looking better, Geiger stepping up in sand last year, you can't rule out Prado, even Glenn Colenhoff after a strong weekend. You can't rule any of these guys out. It could be really, really good racing, and the start's going to be crucial, I feel.
Yeah, it adds a new layer of exciting to think, because Geiger's momentum's come down a wee bit. Crowley's already said he can't wait for the sand, and that's his preferred surface. Hurlings obviously can't wait his home GP and back on sand. Prado, I know, is very good in sand, so it's almost like everyone that hasn't really been winning is now ready to take it to Tim Geiger in the sand and assert their authority or the chances to win, to get their seasons going, for the likes of Jorge Prado, even Glenn Colenhoff and Caroli. I think he's probably had all his worst tracks maybe out of the road, and he's still right there in the championship despite a DNF. He even said he's been riding the mud more often this winter. So his ability to try and learn, to try and keep improving, is pretty remarkable. But it's also working, because he was good in the mud there. Although he had the problem with the goggles, he still managed to make that a crucial pass on Henry Jacoby. And now he's probably quite happy under the circumstances of that DNF to be only 19 points down with sand races coming up.
Yeah, exactly. That was, I mean, he would have probably been happy enough with P4 in the second moto, but the make that pass in Jacoby meant that he lost no points whatsoever, with all 3 riders in the podium, 10 and 40 points. How amazing is that, by the way? Really, really strong, and it just goes to show the depth in MXGP that a 6-1 can give you an overall at the minute. A start's very crucial, and the speed at the front is very, very high. But yeah, going into the Sand GPs, I'm looking forward to seeing how Tim Geiger rides. He was very, very fast at Falklandsward last year. Everyone knows that, but he was a bit ropey, let's say, when he was following Jeffrey. And this year, even though he looks smoother and taking less risks on the bike, I'm just intrigued to see how he reacts in the sand, because he's only got 6 points over Jeffrey now. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in the sand, and if he rides above his limit maybe, and a bit like Falklandsward last year, or if he's actually comfortable running the pace at the front. Very, very exciting to see how it all goes. But I wouldn't rule Caroli out of it either, as you said, because he's going to enjoy the sand and rough stuff, and Jeffrey as well. It's even somebody like Faber can ride the sand now if he can minimise the mistakes. It's all to play for, really.
Yeah, and the top 4 in the championship are separated by 19 points, I think it is. So for Geiser, it's not just Hurlings. He's led in. There's Faber and Crowley are back in as well. And Tim I wouldn't say he rode badly at the weekend. He just didn't have those spectacular motos, and he didn't get the starts to try and free himself up, as it were, from traffic. He had an okay start in the first one, and then the second one, Hurling gave him a bit of a bump in the first turn, and he was in around the top 10. He seemed to struggle to find his rhythm for a while, but once he got it, we saw he did have pace, and he came right into that top 5 group at the end. He just couldn't get the passes on anyone except Jorge Prado. Jorge wasn't too happy there reading his comments after he lost 2 places the last lap or two. So he's still, I would say, not firing on all cylinders, but he's showing that when he has a clean race, good start and clean laps, that he has the pace. So it could be just a matter of time before he gets that extra wee bit that he needs, maybe one moto win to get his confidence, because he's had a couple of races that you wouldn't really expect, but he's still only, I think, 27 points off the lead. So he's still very much in this championship fight too. And we all know he loves the sound as well. And he isn't a guy that lacks confidence, and he's very determined. So he's not used to failure. So these mistakes aren't going to sit well with him. And I feel he's just going to get more and more motivated, a wee bit like Jeffrey. There at the weekend, he came in and he admitted he decided he wanted to win in Maggiora. So this sort of happy with the podium, the patience seemed to run out before the back brake incident happened. And then when that happened, it was just, I'm going back to my usual self, because I need to show the speed here to save this championship with the points. So he did it. He now knows he has the speed against anyone, even on his worst conditions. So good luck trying to beat Jeffrey Hurlings and us.
Yeah, just on Prado, I feel like that was definitely the best he's rode in terms of consistency over both motos, because in the second moto, even though he finished 7th, I mean, he was right there behind Crowley with 4 or 5 laps to go. It was only really the last 4 or 5 laps that let him down. Not too sure what happened to him. Maybe Jonas surprised him and then he lost a bit of rhythm or something like that. But I definitely feel like he rode better at Mallory. So to come away with the same result, 2-7, definitely be disappointed, because he had done all the hard work. He put himself into a good position and behind Crowley, and it looked for all the world he would actually follow Crowley through on Jacoby, but whatever went on there the last 4 or 5 laps just didn't pan out for him, unfortunately. But yeah, like you said, he's only 27 points down, so considering, let's say, he hasn't got it all together so far this year, it's not a complete disaster to be only just over a moto behind in terms of points. It could be a lot worse for him, and going into the sand, he'll be looking to turn it around and not have another few bad laps like that again, the way he ended the second moto in Maggiora there. And yeah, Jeffrey Hurlings was third. Nice to see him back winning, 91st Grand Prix win, and it's come maybe sooner than expected. I think a lot of people thought he would maybe just take another podium this weekend, and then the season would really start in the sand. But 6-1 gives him the overall, and he'll be feeling good now after it's been a long time for this coming for him. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a bit of a momentum swing now in the championship, or if Geiser or Crowley can respond. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think we'll have to give a mention to Robin Fevre as well. That first moto win was very, very dominant. He looked like he'd everything under control at all times. Prado gave him a bit of a run there halfway through, but Fevre was able to ward him off and open the gap up to over 5 seconds. Again, he's just so comfortable in those tracks where there isn't a lot of grip or riders are searching for grip. It's the all control really good. He looks very, very at home. He can kind of put the bike where he wants, or he can take a line other people don't see or other people aren't able to get grip out of. He seems to be able to do all that. But the second moto again, trying to get these 2 motos together for Fevre's proven pretty frustrating this year, and it's cost him a good few points in the championship. Of course, he's still within touching distance, but it could have been a lot better. He was looking forward to the mud, he said, in the second moto, but minimum 2, possibly 3 crashes there in a 12th place kept him off the podium, and I'm sure he's pretty angry with himself, albeit he's still third in the championship. But that was a good chance for, if not an overall win, definitely a podium, and close right in on Tim Geiser at the front of the championship.
Yeah, exactly that. I feel like Fevre's made the most mistakes out of anybody so far. I know Crowley had the DNF, but you can only really call that one mistake so far, whereas Fevre's had a few moments that's let him down, and if it wasn't for those moments, he'd be right there in the championship actually. But considering he's had those mistakes, he's still third within touching distance, so it's not too bad. It's the key for him is just to maybe be in the same situation he is now after the sand, because he's being French, he's not known for sand riding, even though he has stepped up in the sand this last few years. Speed wise, he had the speed at Lama last year and stuff, so it'll just be interesting to see how he performs in the sand GPs this year with these other guys maybe they'll be looking to step things up now and maybe assert themselves a wee bit more. But he's definitely going to have to cut the mistakes down because that it'd be closer without them. So it'll be interesting. It's a bit frustrating because he could have easily got the overall there at the weekend. So to finish fifth, he'd be very frustrated with that.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Ben Townley after the designations in Ernie when he was got a good look at Febvre when he came back, and he was saying Febvre makes a lot of little mistakes but no big ones. Yeah. And at the minute he is making a couple of relatively big mistakes. Now I don't think Febvre's ever going to be a rider that rides technically perfect like a Prado or Stefan Everts, but whenever he is on, that's exactly how he works. He makes tiny mistakes, but it doesn't really interrupt his flow or his speed. I feel like he's almost there, but he's just making the odd bad decision that's keeping him off these two consistent motos. But he's probably closer than we've seen in a long time to his World Championship winning form.
Yeah, he probably just needs to be a wee bit more patient in the motos, I would say. I mean, that the time when he tagged Jonas, he just needed to be patient there and take his time, and he would have probably found a way past Jonas. And then again in the second moto in Maggiora, he was seventh, I think, before his first crash, and he probably just got a wee bit impatient. But seventh wouldn't have been the end of the world, and that would have been probably the worst result he would have got if he had kept it in two wheels. But if he had kept it in two wheels, you know, he could have made a few passes there and caught up with a group ahead of him. So just needs to be a wee bit more patient, take his time a wee bit more instead of pushing so hard all the time to make passes, because that is ultimately going to lead to mistakes and crashes. But he can be happy with the speed. The speed's definitely not the issue. Just cut out the errors, the big errors, and he should be there or thereabouts. He was absolutely fantastic in race one, the throttle control, and he made the track look very, very easy, and when there wasn't a lot of traction out there in places.
Okay, I think we'll have to talk about Henry Jacobi. That was a pretty amazing ride in race two in the mud. He's not really known for being the most smooth guy in the world, but he was at the first 10 minutes he was pressuring Hurlings, and it looked, especially when Crowley threw his goggles, that he was actually going to get third. Now he dropped those two positions right in the last two laps, but fifth place for Henry Jacobi race two. That's great for the Jackie Martins team as well. Honda must be pleased with that, because obviously it's not their direct factory effort, but he's still putting a red bike up front, and good for him to show that he has the speed in MXGP whenever he gets the start. Like a lot of guys around Jacobi's level, they're gonna need the start to try and see that pace, because you aren't gonna come through if you're starting 15th with him. But those guys are all very good riders, and if they can get away in the right circumstances and get into that rhythm of the top guys, they're capable of going that pace for a while.
Jacobi absolutely has the speed, but sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen next with him. So you were sort of watching that second moto, just praying he would bring it home for a good result and not throw it down the track. So thankfully he done that. It looked for all the world he was maybe going to bring third home, but I was glad to see him just maybe not over push and just bring home a very, very solid fifth. Very, very good. The best race of his career in MXGP so far. And he has the speed, and if he can do that more, just take his time and be patient instead of pushing flat out all the time. There's no reason why he can't get plenty more top 10 results, because speed is there, and if like you said, if he can get the starts, it's a bit of a pity for him that Michel Chervelin's out actually, because HRC Honda are possibly looking at a fill-in rider, and if Chervelin was there, and Jacobi might have got the call, but obviously they're not going to leave Jackie Martins with no rider, so unfortunate. It would have been a dream, I'm sure, for him to be an HRC Honda factory rider, but the plan for him now should just be build on this. He should take plenty of confidence from it, and he actually showed really good throttle control and temperament in that second moto, so definitely something to build on after, let's say, a frustrating start to the season, because he had pace, but I think he had only scored points in one moto coming into it. That was after the really scary crash he had, so fingers crossed he can build momentum from this now.
Yeah, I think Henry Jacobi's maybe stereotypical career can be summed up in the first three rounds. No points the first three, that big crash at Matterley Basin, toughing it out to get points in that second moto, a bad start and slight struggle, although getting points in MXGP is nothing to be sniffed at, and then a good start and showing the pace he has. He can be all over the map, but there's no one thing you can't doubt, and that's his pace and his determination. As you say, maybe he's a wee bit too determined at times, and that can cost him, but he definitely has raw speed, and if he can get starts, he might actually be able to calm down then, because he's not trying to override himself through the pack. He can just settle down and learn to go the pace of the front guys.
Yeah, exactly that. At least teams will be able to see though that he has the pace. So if they can just calm him down a wee bit, there's no reason why he can't get good results in that class. And he's still a pretty young rider, and the speed of the top 10 is impressive. So, and he's the sort of guy that always needs a year or two in the class to really, before we see the best of him. I think it was his last year in MX2. He finished sixth in the World Championship, and when he had first moved into the class, he was battling for points usually. So he will progress. There's no doubt about that. And he finished second in the Junior World Championship behind Tim Geiger, I think, or he might have even won it, one or the other. But so he clearly has talent, that's for sure.
Just on the Honda situation with Mitch Evans, he's going to be out for a while. He might be out the full season, he might not, but he's going to be out for the foreseeable future anyway until he gets the operation and can recover. So if he does come back, it'll be right at the end of the season. You would think so. You got the scoop with Yuri Tixia. He wasn't too happy with a lack of money essentially from Honda. Now Honda are obviously paying Tim Geiger a lot of money, and they're obviously paying Mitch Evans. So it would have been a third salary for a two-bike team, which is understandable. It isn't going to be that high, but you would have thought they would have been able to give a fill-in rider something. What are your thoughts on Yuri's decision? And is there anyone you can see they could actually get that would be able to justify the bike they're getting?
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed it hasn't worked out really. I think it would have been perfect because I'm not sure there's a rider of Jordy Tixier's pedigree out there that's available. And I think if they maybe had a went, like, there's 20 or 30k, and then we'll give you bonuses based on results, he might have took that. But to ride for free and to break his contracts with the sponsors he currently has, I don't blame him in the slightest for not taking that. So it's a difficult one. But I know HRC have spent an absolute fortune on Geiger and they're still paying Evans. I understand that, but you'd think there'd be a compromise there and they could meet in the middle somewhere. In terms of who's available, to be honest, there's not much out there. Maybe, I mean, Max Nagel, but would he come back to MXGP to ride for free? Highly doubt it. Maybe get somebody like Jeremy DeLynch. Would he be competitive enough in MXGP? Difficult to say. There's not too much floating about at the minute, so and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get a fill-in rider until maybe one of the other Honda teams have riders back, and then they can promote somebody they already have. I mean, SR Honda haven't got Pat Jarrell at the minute, and Jackie Martins hasn't got Chervillon at the minute. Whenever those two come back, maybe they'll look at promoting Jacoby before the end of the year or something like that. That could be their best option.
Yeah, it's obviously a great opportunity for a rider to ride a full factory HRC Honda as well. So there is a balance there. But a guy like Tommy Searle, maybe he's got experience, but does he want to traveling all the time now and have the pressure of turning up to a GP level field? I don't know. And again, it's probably a few French guys in the French National Championship are going fast as well, but you still have to try and translate that at the world level, and you've got a good bike, so Honda are going to expect some sort of decent level of performance from you as well, and to find that guy that's going to tick every box so isn't in a contract, because as you said, Jordy he had all his own contracts, gear companies, manufacturers and all that, to then break all that, he's not going to feel too good about everything, letting those people down that have supported him with his own team. So there's a lot of boxes to tick, and it looks like they're struggling to make anything happen at the minute.
Yeah, you mentioned Tommy Searle, but again, he's not going to ride for free, and he's not going to take the risks at that level to not bring home a bit of money from the factory. So there is one guy, maybe Zach Pichon. I could see it would be a very good opportunity for him, and he would probably ride for free. So maybe somebody like him, he could maybe surprise too. He probably has the pace to run 15th or somewhere like that, 15th to 20th. He's pretty good on a 450, but again, it'll come down to whether he wants to ride for free. That's what it's going to come down to, because it doesn't look like they're going to put a budget into getting a fill-in rider, which is
you would think even if they're riding technically for free, there would be bonuses for every money for every point you scored or whatever, which might be good for a guy like Zach Pichon, that if he performs, he will get decent money in return to justify or validate his effort and hopefully success if he does get good points. But it's definitely a tricky one, and I don't think there's an easy answer for anyone in that scenario, despite perhaps one of the best bikes on the track and getting to learn from and ride with Tim Geiger. Isn't an opportunity you're going to get very often.
Exactly. I thought they might have looked to Australia, like somebody like Kyle Webster, but I was speaking to Roger Harvey at the British Grand Prix, and I'm not sure that's a route they want to go down. But maybe give it another few GPs, and then they might explore that. You never know.
Yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, I think. So moving on to the Yamaha guys, Glenn Coldenhoff rode very, very well. Second moto, I think he needed that just for his own confidence, and I'm sure he felt under a bit of pressure. He'd been signed for Yamaha for a lot of money, and he's been steady the first couple of rounds, getting back into it, seeing the pace again at the front, and Maggiora, he was very good. He might regret a wee bit given that win to Hurlings, and Hurlings came on strong at the end, but I don't think it was worth risking throwing away a podium in those conditions. So to come back, get a podium, first podium on the new bike, he's their big star signing this season, and now it looks like it's starting to come together for Glenn Coldenhoff.
Yeah, whenever I seen the rain coming down, I thought, here we go, this is Glenn's time to shine, because he's fantastic in those sort of conditions, and he also got a hole shot at the right time. So it was good to see him lead. I know coming into the season there was a bit of a question mark. I think they were having engine issues getting it right and the gearing and stuff like that, but 3 GPs in to be on the podium with a 4-2, 7th in the championship, like he said in the podium, his series starts now, and that's a big confidence booster for him, I think, after probably what was a hard winter trying to adapt to the bike and stuff. So nice to see him at the front of MXGP again, and he's another one with 3 sand races coming in the next 4 GPs. He'll be excited for that because we all know he can race the sand.
Yeah, I think Glenn likes very precise things from a bike and knows what he feels and knows what he wants. So it probably takes time for the team to get used to him to get used to the team, and everybody to align, but to where he's fully comfortable to run the sort of pace he started running at Maggiora. So it's nice to see all that come together, and hopefully Glenn can be one of the front runners now from here on out. Also, Ben Watson, I thought did very well. Top 10 again, and he was actually on that kind of elite factory guy's pace there for a while. In the first moto, we had a moment going up the hill that seemed to scare him a bit and increase the heart rate. Jeremy Sear got by, but that's just all experience for Ben Watson, and I feel after that tough round in Russia, good performance in Britain, a good performance here again, and a slightly better start that he got to see the pace and see that he can run with his teammates and stuff. That's a really good 2 out of 3 rounds for Ben Watson coming into his rookie MXGP season, and I think he has to go home happy and pretty content with where he is at the minute.
Yeah, after the Russian nightmare, let's say, he's really rebounded back and got it going again, and showing the speed that he showed in pre-season at the sandy tracks. He's now looking pretty good in the hard pack tracks as well, which is good to see, because that's maybe always been sort of his weak point, but he looks like he's able to use the power of the 450 and the torque of the bigger bike, and it suits him a lot better because he's a smooth rider. You know, when it comes to being really aggressive in the 250 and riding balls out, that's maybe where his down point is too. So he looks to be enjoying the 450 now, and aside from Russia, he's really been impressive as a rookie. It's really not easy to make the step up from MX2 to MXGP when you're not a proper elite guy, let's say. So to be 9th overall, moved his way into 12th in the championship, very, very impressive stuff. And again, heading into the sand, he'll be looking forward to the next three out of the next 4 GPs to enjoy the soft stuff.
And Jeremy Sear, I don't think he's overjoyed with, I think it was 2 8th places he got there, but he doesn't seem to be fully 100% with his physical fitness and energy. So it looks like he's kind of managing his season at the minute as he searches to be fully fit and really show his speed that he was showing, especially at the end of last season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that actually. He's struggling with his body and his energy, surprising me, because he's a hard worker and stuff. So I would like to know what's going on there. But 8-8 for a guy like Sear that's been second in the world twice now, that's not what he's after. But I mean, he's still 6th in the championship, and the speed at the front this year is very, very fast. There's no doubt he can be there once he gets himself sorted out physically. There's no doubt about that, because he has the pace. But well, a weekend off might do him the world of good now. Who knows? But hopefully he can figure it out, because he belongs in the top 5, I would say.
And just before we leave MXGP, the Brits rode pretty good. Simpson had a better day at Maggiora. Adam Sterry got points first moto again. So those two, I think, have to be pleased. Top 20 overall. And it was just, well, they say it isn't an easy class, and they're riding pretty good. Their speed's decent. Adam, again, seems to be enjoying MXGP more than he is in the British Championship. So I think for those two guys, decent day in Italy.
Yeah, for Sterry in the first moto, it was very, very encouraging actually. He was battling in the top 15 for quite some time and battling some really good riders. So to come home in 16th, and you can tell he's learning every single weekend and getting better and better. Second moto, bit of a write-off with the conditions, so we'll forgive him that one. But 16th, race one, more of that as the season progresses. Very good. And yeah, Sean that was his best GP of the year so far, I would say. 14th overall, two top 15s. Not easy to do in MXGP, and he's got himself into 19th of the championship now. And he can start having fun in some sand now. We all know he likes the sandy, rough conditions, so he'll be looking forward to us in a couple of weeks' time.
And also Kevin Strybus is 13th in the World Championship. Not bad for a guy who looked like he was maybe not going to have a ride this year and might end up retiring or just riding the National Championship. He's 13th World Championship on the Van Venrooy Yamaha. He's adapted pretty well to that bike this season, and he's putting in solid results each round so far.
Yeah, his speed's probably better than that as well. He's starting every single race outside the top 20, every single moto. Cannot start at the issues at the moment, and it's something that he knows he needs to work on, especially in MXGP. Start's more important than ever, so it would be interesting to see if he can get a top 10 start, what he could do. Can he run the pace of the top 10? Be interesting, but he certainly looks better now than what he has done in the last few years. But I suppose a lot of it's staying injury free, and he's managed to do that so far this year.
Yeah, is there anything else in MXGP you want to add in before we go to MX2?
Yeah, I would like to give Paul Jonas a shout out. Thought he was fantastic, absolutely fantastic, especially in that second moto with the really tough condition to come through and pass those guys. That's 2 weeks in a row, or 2 GPs in a row, and the second moto he's blasted by Prado, so he'll be happy with that after a bit of their rivalry in MX2. So 6th overall, 8th in the championship. He'll be looking to get that podium now. I think if he can get the start, he could be knocking on the door, but he seems to always having to come through the pack, which makes it difficult, but the speed's definitely there. Another rider I would like to mention is Alvin Osland, and again, he's an MXGP rookie, and at a track he's not necessarily been great at in the past, but for him to go 13.15 on the JK Yamaha for 13 overall, that's good stuff. And then Brent Van Donnick finally got a top 10 moto result with a 10th in Moto 1. He's got the speed, no doubt about it this year. He just can't seem to be able to put it together. But 10th in the first moto was very good. Second moto, I think he had a couple of crashes and he pulled into goggle in a few times. So that one was a bit of a write-off. But if he can get out and keep it in 2 wheels, no reason why we can't see him in the top 10 plenty more times. And Jimmy Clochet as well, actually. It was good to see the Beta get 2 riders in the points in the second moto, with Van Hoorbeek also impressing with 10th overall. So sure, Beta were delighted with that one.
Yeah, it's a good confidence booster for Clochet because Van Hoorbeek's proven the bike's good, which doesn't give Jimmy sort of much room to argue if he isn't getting in the points. But first year, obviously, at MXGP, he did show good speed in the MX Open class last year, so it's nice to see him get some points and hopefully start to show his potential at this level going forward. I think we'll move to MX2 now. The EMX2 class dominated the World MX2 Championship this weekend, with Guadagnini taking the overall, winning the second moto, and Thibaut Benestant showing his potential with a very, very impressive first moto win. And I think the thing that impressed me most about that one was when he came in, it didn't even look like he was surprised. He wasn't full of jubilation. He was just happy and satisfied. But he came very calm to his interview, as if that's what he was expecting. He wasn't sort of going over the top, and I think it shows the mentality these two guys have. They aren't intimidated whatsoever. And Benestant, of course, he had the crash in the start of the second moto, so he did come from the back, but he still came pretty well through there for, I think, 14th he got to. So bad second moto, but a good ride still. So Benestant, another guy everyone's going to have to keep an eye on, but it's just these two EMX2 riders from last year, their composure out front is very, very impressive. Guadagnini, again, got out front, second moto, didn't look perturbed at all, very calm, great style, very, very smooth. And he was going for his first win, and he was doing it in Italy. So if there was any time the pressure was going to get to you, being a rookie, it was probably then. But once more, he just looked completely calm and like he believes he's meant to be winning races at this level now. And he got the victory, and now he leads the championship. So I think we're going to have to take this guy seriously as a world championship threat now.
Yeah, it's very, very, very impressive, isn't it? But it just goes to show that this format's working. The format is very, very good. I mean, if you throw those guys in at MX2 at 15, you don't know how they're going to perform. They've had a couple of years in the MX 250 now to learn the tracks, adapt everything, and obviously it's still tough to make the jump up to MX2, but the teams are now believing in these EMX 250 riders, and that's why they have factory bikes. But obviously you still have to deliver out in the track, and it's really, really good to watch. They've both got, I think Guardini's definitely worked on his technique, and obviously having a factory KTM is probably helping, but he looks really in control this year. Very, very impressed. And to win his first GP in the third time of asking on the factory KTM, seriously impressive. And that bike's going to look nice with the red plate. And yeah, Thibaut Benistad in the first moto, he was fantastic as well. I think with the crash in the second moto, he hurt his arm, so he could only come up to P14, but that was still quite good under the circumstances. So for him to be sixth in the championship as well, they're really showing that they're to be taken seriously, and they show no fear as well, which is great to see. I love to see the young guns just go pin it at the front and not care who they're racing against. It's great.
Yeah, and I think you can put Kai de Wolf in that bracket as well. He's a wee bit less experienced than those two, but for a Dutch rider to be riding a track like Maggiora and be top 10 again and on the pace was very impressive as well. And he's certainly going to be one to keep an eye on in the sand coming up.
Yeah, he's been very impressive all year, really. It's just the starts let him down at Matterley, and with that track being so fast, it was hard to come through. But it's he almost had two top tens in Russia, just crashed with a few laps to go. But finally, to put it all together, 7-9 for ninth overall. And I mean, this kid was racing at 125 2 years ago, so he's made the big jump up in a shorter space of time than the other two. So he's probably going to need a year in this class before we see the best of him. But he certainly has the talent, and he's got the work ethic. I think in the past, some Dutch riders maybe haven't bothered with hardpack, but he knows you need to be good in all conditions. It's going to be great to see him in the sand. Can he run top 5? Who knows? If he can get the start, why not? He has the capabilities.
It was hard not to feel sorry for Tom Vial at the weekend. He braved the pain, got a qualifying time on Sunday morning, and he was actually going okay the first 10 minutes or so in the points in the first race, but obviously the pain was just too much for him, and that's another 50 points he's given away in the championship. And to make matters worse, his pseudo teammate in the Ducati team, Mario Guadagnini's won and is now leading the championship. So from his perspective, he had all the momentum. He was the best rider in the world essentially last year, and he continued that in Russia. And now he's not even the top guy in his team in terms of statistics in the championship this year. So this is maybe, he's had a lot of positive in his career, and this is maybe the toughest part of his career mentally so far, to be going from the guy to beat to now his teammate leading the championship. No points in 2 rounds after a crash that wasn't his fault, and he has a lot of work to do now to try and be world champion this year. But it's going to be an interesting test to see how mentally he can cope with this, because he has been strong ever since he's moved into MX2, and it's just a hurdle I don't think anyone really expected, but he's now going to have to deal with, and I don't think it's going to be easy, especially with his teammate kind of taking over the mantle as the new world title favourite, perhaps.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's not too surprising to say that he couldn't race. To be honest, I mean, at Matterley Basin, did he even do 2 laps? He done 1 lap in free practice anyway. He might have done a second lap, and it was asking a lot. But obviously, he needed to try for the sake of the championship. If he could have got points, it would have been great. But he was obviously in too much pain, so that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he does now. If his hand's not great for Oz. Does he try and battle through the pain there, or does he just wait until he's 100% now and then make a return? It will be interesting, because, he might it's going to be very difficult for the title now. So they have a decision to make there, I would say.
63 off. He probably, in his head, he still has a chance if he can ride close to his potential. potential in Holland, but if you let that round go as well, it's going to be very, very difficult because top guys, their consistency is still in question at the front of the championship because they haven't done it yet. But Vial's probably hoping if he can get fit in these 2 weeks off, thank goodness he has the 2 weeks until Oz to give him every chance. But he's sort of the sort of guy, if he is fit, can maybe string a few wins together and make points up quickly. But if he misses another round, that's going to be very difficult as it is. As you say, it's already going to be difficult, but he's maybe a small window of opportunity he can still see there. But each round he misses and each amount of points he drops each round, it's getting more and more difficult for him. So it's hard not to feel sorry for him because it wasn't his fault and it wasn't like he was riding out of control and made a bad decision or anything. It was just complete freak circumstances, and now he's a lot in his mind to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think if the hand's not great for us and he knows it's not great and he's going to be battling for points, do they do that and risk making the hand worse, or do you just wait until the hands, you can be at least top 5? It'll be interesting because they definitely don't want to make the injury any worse than it is. But if the hand's all right before the next round and he believes he can battle in the top 5, then obviously he's going to race. But I'll just be intrigued to see if he tries to race again. And, it's just going to be survival out there for him because the last thing they want to do is make the injury worse. But one thing I would say, as gutting as this year is for him, if he had won the title this year, he would have had to go to MXGP. Whereas if he doesn't win the title this year, he's got at least another 2 years in MX2. So long term, that might not be the worst thing for his career because it buys him a bit more time in the 250 and to go for another 2 world titles.
Yeah, it might have been a bit soon to go to MXGP, although with his talent, it's very hard to doubt Tom Vial. The way he rides a bike too could suit the 450, but he isn't the biggest guy. So if you're looking for a silver lining, that could be it. But I don't think at the minute he'll be able to focus on that. He'll just be trying to salvage this world title. A guy who I think we need to give a round of applause to is Jago Gertz. He had 2 good starts. He's not always known to be the best starter, but he got 2 good starts. He clearly isn't at 100% of his level yet. Although it was good to hear that his knee isn't bothering him anymore, but he was definitely a wee bit race rusty whenever it comes to battling at the front, but he didn't give in. He fought tooth and nail all day, and it's pretty miserable whenever you're not quite on the pace and there's a train of riders behind you. That's a lot of pressure mentally to take. You can't make a mistake. You can't leave the door open, and to do that for 30 minutes is very, very tough. But Gert's done really, really well to salvage 3rd overall and kind of springboard himself back into a bit of form. And with the knee now hopefully okay and no more problems, he's 2 weeks to work on his training and fitness and riding, that hopefully come Oz we'll be able to see the real Jago Gertz again.
Yeah, you definitely can't knock this guy for his determination anyway. I mean, after the knee injury before Russia, a lot of guys wouldn't have even raced Russia. He raced there, and his pace has actually been okay, but that was definitely the best he's rode so far this season in Maggiora. And the starts, great to see him get 2 good starts. That's exactly what he needed. And you can tell he is a bit race rusty, like you said, and probably during the week, if he is riding a couple of times, he's probably not able to ride as intense as he would like to. So I think that's why after 20 minutes he started to go backwards a bit and he looked a bit tired. So as the knee is now okay, hopefully he can be a bit more intense at the practice track and build himself up, because the real Jago Gertz is obviously very fit and he would never start dropping back like that there. So good damage limitation, and to get his first podium, all things considered, is very good. Worked himself up to 9th in the championship now, so he'll be looking to go up that championship table. And with plenty of sand races coming up, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Jago Gertz at 100%, you can't bet against him in the sand, but it'll be interesting to see how close he is to 100% at Oss. Yeah,
he's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on, and Oss, just to see if he can step back up to his normal level there. But Maxime Renault, I thought, although he didn't get the results he was maybe expecting with the momentum coming from Matterley Basin, crashed in the first moto, but he salvaged a good 6th place there. And he also said he was having stomach problems again, which he mentioned in Russia he had as well. So it seems to be potentially an ongoing issue for him there at the minute. But second race, 2nd place, he got a good start. I was expecting him to go after Guadagnini, but he wasn't. If he's not feeling well, he probably made a smart decision there just to take home the points. So he's right in championship contention now, and he's built up a lot of experience that a lot of his competition around him at the minute don't have. So mentally, he might be in the was sort of level-headed, for want of a better phrase, coming into this title hunt now 3 rounds in, and he's making smart decisions when things are going bad, and when he gets a good start, he has the pace to stay there and win motos. So Maxime Renault's looking very, very good, and he doesn't really have a weakness in terms of terrain. He's just good everywhere now, so he's looking good. It wasn't his best day, but he still came home second overall, and he's got to have that World Championship in his sights right now. It looks like he's riding with a big picture in his mind as well. He's not just putting all his hopes and dreams into every race and every lap. He looks like he's riding with the big picture in his mind, knowing that when the opportunities come to win, that he's going to be able to take it.
Yeah, and he's also been consistent. I know he didn't get on the podium in Russia, but he had the pace for that in Russia, and then to win and now go second. You know, if he's on the box every week, which I think he's good enough to do, he's got the speed to do. He's probably going to be the favourite for this title now, with Vial and Gertz having their issues. So he's worked himself into second in the championship now, so and he's not far off. So, and yeah, like you said, he's good in every terrain. Considering he's French, when I remember watching him on the 125, he was probably better in the sand than he was the hard pack then. So it's quite funny that, because French guys are usually the opposite. But his hard pack riding actually needed a bit of work at the start, but he's now got his hard pack riding level up the sand level. So he's a complete rider now, really, and he's going to be a hard man to stop, I think.
Yeah, and we should probably give a shout out to Kimi Yamaha in general. They have 3 riders in the top 5 this weekend. Maxime Renault very close to leading the championship. Thibaut Benesson just won his first moto as a rookie. And obviously Jago Gertz has problems, but looks like he's on his way back now with the podium and will be expected to be a race winning contender from here on out. So 3 riders can't be easy to keep everything up, parts, bikes, and keep them all happy as well with the same attention. Mark Baverts, I'm sure, and everyone are kept pretty busy with those 3 guys, because they've all proven now they can win and be front runners. But great for Yamaha to have 3 riders right at the sharp end this year.
Yeah, it's great for that to see Yamaha, 3 of them in the top 5, but they'll be looking at the bigger picture. Yamaha really want this World Championship, and you know what? This could be the year that do it. Also, something worth pointing out is Maxime Renault and Thibaut Benestant are now working with ex-Grand Prix rider Kenny Van Duren. I think they started working over the winter together there, so that could be a good combination there. And then obviously Jago Gertz has got Steve Ramon still in his corner. He's been working with him for multiple years now. So, but for Gertz, it's more about just getting back up to 100% as soon as possible, and then going for these race wins, because he'll definitely be winning GPs when he's 100% fit, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think in the past the KTM or Husky or even Gas as it is now, those bikes were perceived to have an advantage, but with three Kamiya Yamahas showing that no matter what, if you choose the right rider, you can get the right results on those bikes now. F&H Kawasaki are the same. They've obviously a competitive package, and Honda with Ruben Fernandez, he'll be a bit frustrated with his second moto, but first moto he was riding really well. He thought aggressive style, those no patience. I would just want to get to the front passes. So he's exciting to watch. A great stand-in by Honda, and it shows that their package is competitive as well. So it's really nice to see that whatever bike major manufacturer that the riders are choosing, that there's teams there that are producing a bike capable for a rider to win if he has the talent.
Yeah, well, you have to really take your hat off to 114 Motorsports and Livia Lancela there. She's doing a wonderful job. I mean, that's not a factory bike. HRC aren't involved there, and the bike looks very, very good, really good, and Fernandez looks comfortable. I think even though he wanted to go to Honda, I think he's even surprised by how good the bike's been. So hopefully they can continue building and working on that. And it's a bit of a shame factory Honda don't get in behind MX2. They never really have, for whatever reason. I mean, they've had a few factory riders in the past just under the HRC MXGP awning, but they've never really separated that and had their own MX2 factory team, which is a real shame. Something I think they should look at and do. Why not? It can help them as well if they sign riders for MX2 and then promote them into MXGP, or they could just give Livia factory support. Why not? Because she's done a wonderful job. But it would be good to see Honda step up a bit in MX2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think with the work she's done and the team to get that bike competitive, probably gives her a lot of credit in Honda's eyes. So if they were going to do a more HRC focused effort, she's obviously then that team's got themselves in the first spot in the queue to probably take advantage of that. But for Fernandez himself, he'll be disappointed with that second moto. He's lost the points lead now, but I think he's five points back just. So he's still right there, and he was really putting some aggressive passes on in the second moto as well. He's really, really fun to watch, and he looks like he can put that Honda anywhere. He looks very, very comfortable on it, so the rideability of the bike looks good, as well as definitely looks like they've managed to get some extra power out of the machine as well.
Yeah, he rode really well all weekend, really, and after the disaster of going down on the first lap, I mean, this MX2 field is deep. He was riding really, really well. In other years, he probably would have come up to the top 10 there, no problem, but the fact that he rode so well and got back to 12th just shows how deep this field is this year, and also having an extra couple of AMX 250 riders in there too. So damage limitation was done, and it was a good day, but want to avoid any first lap mishaps in the future. It's hard work coming through that field.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see how he goes in the sand. Now, Rowan van der Moosdijk, that second moto, was a bit more of what I think Rowan is capable of. He might have sat behind Gertz a wee bit longer than he really wanted to. Could have possibly been a wee bit more aggressive as between whenever Basrame just instantly railed around the outside to pass Gertz once Van der Moosdijk had, but Basrame's never been shy of a wee bit of aggression and to take a risk in a moment to make a pass. But Rowan, definitely that second moto is probably where he should be more consistently, but a bit of a step forward before he hits the sand in Holland on his home Grand Prix. He's fairly well positioned, top 5 in the championship. I'm hoping he can just take it to the next level now from here on out, because I think he ticks a lot of boxes to be a future world champion.
Yeah, definitely do not sleep on this guy. 3 hard pack rounds, and he's only 14 points off the championship lead, and he hasn't even got a podium yet. So he's been consistent in around that 4th, 5th, and 6th. And yeah, he just needs to be more aggressive. He's really great to watch, good technique. It's just when he's in behind somebody and battling, he's maybe a wee bit too nice. If he can be a wee bit more aggressive, and Rennie Hoffer's the same, by the way, those two, great to watch, got great techniques, but they're just maybe a wee bit too nice. But as for Rowan, going into the sand, I'd be surprised if he doesn't at least win one of those GPs, as long as he can get out of the gate as well. His starts and is not being aggressive enough, or his 2 weak areas, you would say, but everything else, he's got the boxes ticked. So he's going to be really fascinating. He's, after Renault, he's my dark horse for the title. I think it could come down between those two. But at the same time, Van der Moosdijk must be pretty frustrated because he's an EMX 250 champion. And to see 2 rookies already win motos, like, he has the talent and potential to do that. Just needs to be a wee bit more aggressive and get better starts, like I said.
Yeah, I think Rowan, he needs to do things step by step. He doesn't sort of come in, although he has been fast from when he was 15, he seems to need to do something to believe he can do it, and then that takes him to the next point. And I feel he's just struggling with the confidence to really assert himself to be a consistent top 3 guy at the minute. But he looks like he's getting there. But as you say, with Guadagnini and Benestant just not really caring about taking steps, they just want to win now, and they're not really shocked or bothered that it's happening. They're sort of expecting that they're good enough to be able to do it. It puts a wee bit more pressure on Rowan this season now to really establish himself and show that he isn't going to get usurped by these EMX2 rookies.
Yeah, exactly that. But he shouldn't be too worried at the moment. I mean, he's 14 points off. That's 3 tracks that wouldn't really suit him. And then with these sand ones coming up, he can win. There's no doubt about it. If he can really work hard and go charge. No, I mean, at the start of last year, he wasn't unbelievable either. But as the season went on, he progressed a lot. So he should get better as the season progresses, I feel. And he's definitely one to watch. He shouldn't be far away from this. He really shouldn't.
The guy who rode really well was Andrea Adamo. He always a wee bit under the radar, but 11th overall. He was very good in Maggiora. Obviously, his home country, home track, or at least home country. I'm not sure how often he gets to ride that track, but very good performance, and a guy that probably don't really talk about enough. But he's fast, as he proved in Maggiora. Whenever he gets decent starts, he beats Simon Langenfelder, who had a tough first moto, although he did come back to ride well in race 2 with a better start. But Adamo is quietly fast, I would say.
Yeah, very good. Again, another AMX 150 champion. And now he's racing the best MX2 riders in the world, and he's doing really well. The SM Action team are definitely very good for young riders and developing them, and very good work there. 11th overall, and it's his rookie year. Last year, after getting injured at Valkenswaard, he also missed loads of racing. So to be this pace already at the start of the season, very, very encouraging, and he should only continue to get better. But so far, so good. 13th in the championship in a stacked field. Very, very good.
I'm starting to worry a wee bit about Isaac Giffen, 21st in the championship. No points in Italy. I know he's had bad luck and stuff, but this is a big chance for him on a factory bike. He's experienced enough, and he needs to start having things go his way and start getting the points on board, because the form he showed at the end of last year when he was given the opportunity, you would expect that to have continued this year. But 21st in the championship isn't exactly what you want from a factory rider at the minute.
No, it's just unfortunate. I mean, he came into the season injured, picking up an injury, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. And whenever things are going bad, the confidence takes a hit, and it's just a domino effect. But there's no doubt the kid is rapid. There's no doubt about that. I actually thought he would have been a consistent top 10 rider at the worst this year, but when you get injured right before round one, it's never ideal. So I just hope for his sake, possibly having a week off now to really work and get some bike time is exactly what he needs. He's really good in sand, so hopefully he can get the results in the sand and then start to improve in the hard pack. But hopefully he can improve, because like you said, this is a really big chance for him, and he'll want to keep that ride for next year.
And whenever things are going bad, they tend to get worse, it seems to be at the minute. For him, he got completely wiped out by Ashton Dickinson as well, and a pretty hard move that left them both on the deck and out of the race. So just nothing going right for Giftling at the minute, but hopefully he can turn it around. But as each round goes on, there's going to be more and more pressure on his shoulders.
Well, as the saying goes, when it rains, it pours, and he's just stuck in a wee rut at the minute. But there's no doubt the guy has talent, and fingers crossed he can turn it around soon, because he's too good not to, really. And yeah, he's at a place that he's wanted his whole career. He always done the privateer thing, but last year he got the call to fill in at Gas, and he was a revelation last year, really. But maybe a little bit of it is down to pressure too. Who knows? Last year he would have had no pressure as a fill-in rider. Wee bit of pressure this year. Add in the injuries, not a great combination, but I have no doubt that he'll be back running in the top 10 as soon as possible.
A more positive day for Conrad Mewse. He got a decent start, at least in terms of running with the sort of elite guys in MX2 in race 1, and he showed he can run that pace. Now, the intensity looked like he was finding it hard to go with in the first lap or two, but he settled down well. So Conrad's shown to himself as much as anyone else that he has the stuff to do it. Second moto, bad start, track, not an easy track to pass on again, and it was a result that he isn't really going to want. But he was still 13th overall, an improvement for Conrad Mewse, and at least he knows now when he gets to start with the top guys, he's proven that he can run the pace. So again, I've said it before, but a starts for Conrad Mewse, because when he gets a good start, he can do it. But with a bad start, he definitely struggles to come through the pack more than a rider of his level should, really. Because we saw it with Beniston and Fernandez. Them guys were coming from further back and really pushed hard and were able to make the passes. Conrad seems to get stuck in everyone else's pace a wee bit at the back.
Yeah, well, after the Mallory Basin disaster, it was a step in the right direction. To go 12-15, still not what he's capable of, and still not what he's there to do. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and after Mallory, it was just important that he made a bit of progress there. And he also missed Russia, so Mallory would have been his first GP as well. So this is just a second GP, and now a week off, plenty of riding to do. No doubt he'll be on it at the practice track, but let's hope he can bring that practice track speed to the racetracks starting from Moss. There's no reason why I can't run at least in the top 10 there.
10th in that first moto, I think, is, I'd say Conrad and the team would be looking at him to be top 10 most weekends, almost at worst, because he definitely has that top 5 level to where you would expect him, if he gets a start, to be challenging for podiums. And I would say getting a win, this goal of getting a GP win this year is absolutely not realistic for him. But it looks like he's going to have to start working his way in steps to try and get to that level of confidence again. So it could be a bit of a waiting game for Conrad, but he's good in the sand. So things can go very quick in the opposite direction for Muse if he gets that confidence and gets starts. So again, we're just going to have to wait and see with Conrad Muse as to what we're going to get. But Kevin Horgmo, 15th overall, he impressed with his speed at Matterley Basin in EMX 250. And he showed that he has legitimate MX2 speed with essentially a wild card appearance in Maggiora, 15th overall. Decent performance. He probably thinks he should be in around that top 10 maybe, but I thought he sort of acquitted himself pretty well. Two good rides.
Yeah, not bad. Speed-wise, very good, but it was just when Kevin Horgmo goes to MX2, he seems to just, too many crashes, really. He hasn't even crashed an awful lot this year, but the crashes crept in again. But, he's got the speed because I think it was the second moto, or maybe it was the first moto, he had the fourth quickest lap time. So he's got the speed and the tools there, maybe just over-pushed, and that led to a few crashes. But solid day, 15th overall, 14-16. I would say you're right. I think he belongs in the top 10, especially with how good he's been riding so far this season. But he's going to ride Lockheed here after all, so he'll get another chance there.
Yeah, another chance. But as you say, he has speed. But again, that MX2 class, if you're sort of starting mid-pack, everyone's going pretty quick, and then he's probably having to override to try and find a pass, and that's where mistakes can creep in. I'd like to see him get away with that top 5 group to see what he can do with that, but I still think otherwise 15th overall, not bad for him. Wilson Todd probably would have liked a better day, I would say 18th overall, not what he was completely looking for, but again, points in both motos. He's still trying to regain his full race fitness, so not a bad day for Wilson Todd.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, although after impressing at Matterley Basin, he might have been expecting a wee bit more, but I feel like it's not a total surprise to see him down there because the track was a lot more technical and challenging, and these are the sort of tracks he probably hasn't got that much experience in racing, because racing a lot in Australia and America, and this track was completely different. So this is probably the area he needs to improve at, these kind of tracks. But yeah, at least he was in the points, and he should only get better. But riding these tracks, more importantly, should make him a far better rider in the future, which is what he's here to do.
Yeah, as you say, he's still learning tracks, and he's not getting the Saturday full day of practice to work them out either. Anyone else that caught your eye for good or for bad in MX2?
I thought John Pancart deserves another shout out. Privateer KTM, the race store Italian team, 16th, 13th, 14th overall. That's good stuff. I thought he was impressive. One rider that's maybe not living up to the expectations this year would be Jed Beaton. Hasn't had a great start to the season. I mean, he was better in Maggiora, 5-7, but to be 10th overall in the championship, and I think he's on exactly the same points as Jago Gertz, who's been dealing with a lot of issues. That's not what he would have been after, or Husqvarna would have been after coming into the season. So a weekend off might do him the world of good, because he's definitely, I thought he would have been a dark horse coming into this, but so far things just aren't clicking for him for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's riding bad, but he's kind of always in that mix, 4 to 7 mix, but that wee bit of extra speed he was probably hoping to have this year and starts to get up there, else if he is in a good position, he's making a mistake. So tough enough season for Jed Beaton. I'm sure he wanted a wee bit more, but I think he's riding good enough that he doesn't have to completely panic just yet.
Yeah, he's still riding good, but I just thought maybe coming into it, he might have been a dark horse for the title, but so far it's not to be the case. But the other thing is, this is also his last year in the class. Him and Buzrame are looking to move up to MXGP next year. At the moment, Buzrame has had the better start, so MXGP teams are maybe going to go that direction as opposed to Beaton at the moment. But things can quickly change, as you well know.
Yeah, although with the season later this year, contracts could be signed essentially earlier in the season in terms of rounds in, because it's already July, so teams might be looking the next month or two to start getting signatures. So Buzrame's doing himself no harm at all. He's in the hunt for the world title, and he's showing sort of good pace each round, no matter the circumstances. Beaton's showing a wee bit more okay speed, but a wee bit more inconsistent. So if you're looking for an MX2 graduate, I think Buzrame's going to be higher on your list, as you say.
Probably, although it's funny because you would probably think Beaton will suit the 450 more. So I suppose it depends what way the teams look at it. Buzrame is very, very aggressive. So when he gets onto that 450, he's going to he's going to have to start using the power of the 450 more instead of being so aggressive. But I mean, Febvre was kind of the same on the 250. I had my doubts about him when he went up to MXGP, but look what he done, a full winter in the 450, and he ended up winning his rookie season, and he was a completely different rider in the 450, so Bushrami might be similar.
Yeah, I don't think either will be a bad signing for an MXGP team. In fairness, like Jed's he's still going to be a good rider. Whoever gets him, it's just, I guess, his value in terms of his own wage and the team he can go to is something he'll want to try and maximise with the next few performances in MX2, and just try and get a couple of wins in his last year in the class. I'm sure is a goal for him, and get a wee bit further up the championship. But I think EMX 125 provided maybe some of the best racing of the weekend. And the first guy we'll have to talk about is Sasha Koenen, or Koonin, whatever the best pronunciation of that is, I am not sure. But that wee fella, Paul Mallon, sort of referenced Ricky Carmichael when he was watching him, and I don't think that's too far wrong. Now, I don't think we can say he's going to go on be the level of Ricky and win everything all the time. But in terms of his stature, he's pretty small. His determination and his willingness to lay everything on the line to win what looks to be every race he's in has to be commended and applauded. Like, his talent is pretty fierce. He's going to be a special wee rider once he learns to keep it upright, and probably grows a wee bit to get a bit more strength. But he's not scared to send it. He's not scared to take risks. And he wasn't scared of Osterhagen either. He was going after him as well. And he's been the dominant rider of the class so far. He got 2 good starts, and he really opened a lot. He was good in Matterley Basin, it must be said, but I think he was a level higher in Italy. He was my star rider of the day in EMX 125. Very, very impressed for all the size of him, the speed he can go. For that crash was pretty horrific. He rolled down the hill like an egg. He managed to get back up, and he was at it again in the second moto, trying to go for the win. And I think he crashed again, but nothing seems to get in his head. He's not scared of anything. He just looks to me like he just wants to win, and he's prepared to do whatever it takes and ride the edge the way Carmichael did. Also, Carmichael won a lot of races, even against McGrath or whoever. He forced them to make a decision as to whether they wanted to ride above their comfort zone, because he was prepared to do that. And Conan looks like he doesn't really care about comfort zones. He just wants to win. And he's going to be a very exciting rider to keep an eye on. We just need to keep our fingers crossed that at this stage of his career, he doesn't get badly injured with the risks he takes, and he can kind of get that sort of balance a wee bit better over the next 2 years. But I'd say he's going to be in a lot of teams' radar. And if a guy like Joel Smith can get hold of him in KTM or Kimi Yamaha or somewhere in MX2, that could be a star generational talent for sure.
Yeah, very, very exciting to watch. And he's only 14 years old as well. So his rookie year in the MX 125 class. And I agree with you. He was quick at Mallory Basin, but he definitely stepped it up a level with his riding at Maggiora. But very, very exciting to watch. You can physically see him trying his hardest around every corner. And it's great to watch, but they need to calm that kid down a wee bit. I mean, he completely blew a podium away. If he just had stayed calm, he had a podium in the bag. He was speed-wise, no issues there. But yeah, it's great for the TV, great to watch. But I just hope he doesn't get badly injured, because with the risks and the way he pushes, that could happen. But I mean, he's still 14. He's going to figure it out, and he's going to get stronger too, which should only help him. So as he gains a wee bit more experience and figures out that maybe to slow down a little bit to get the result instead of throwing it down the track and then being left with a DNF or whatever, is maybe not the right approach for now, but definitely an exciting rider for the future.
Yeah, I think at the minute it's okay, because at 14, I'm not sure teams care if he wins the championship or not. He's just thinking he has to show his speed to go further in his career. You had Ken Roxon obviously coming through. Ken always used his head and was just an extremely natural, fluid talent on a bike. Jeffrey, very talented as well, but he had a wee bit more edge to him, a wee bit like that Ricky Carmichael, a wee bit win at all costs. It's obviously cost him a few injuries. Conan seems to have a wee bit more of that mentality, but Jeffrey was always a bit of a stronger build. Conan's very, very light at the minute, and obviously he's going to grow and fill out. So to me, that's going to increase his safety once that happens, but he's not really bothered about safety at the minute, by the look of it. He just wants to go, and they've been doing that at 14 years old. We've already seen, as was talked about in the preview, Max Voland was about a top 10 rider in this class at Matterley Basin last year, and now he's a top 10 rider in the 250 outdoor nationals in America. So this class isn't slow. This class is very, very fast. And for what Conan's doing at 14 years old, he was running the pace of Osterhagen for a while there on a track that isn't easy, was pretty technical, and it was maybe even a wee bit slippier on Saturday. So he had a lot of throttle control as well. And he was showing remarkable talent, but I think equally remarkable determination, and he's going to be a very exciting rider to watch. But also Valerio Lada, I think, deserves a mention. We were a wee bit disappointed with him at Matterley Basin. Thought he was maybe going to step it up compared to where he was last year. And at Maggiora, it looks like he did exactly that. He got better starts. He was on the pace and a second overall for the Italian. Pretty promising ride for him, and a wee bit more of what we were expecting this year coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after disappointing first round, I would say, for himself as well. He probably would have been expecting more. To go 2-2 at the second round and actually move up to second in the championship. I think he'll put the disappointing first round fully behind him now and start to focus on how he can close this gap to Osterhagen. That's sort of the next step for him now, because he has the talent, and if he rides like he's capable of and he gets out of the gate, I think he's the rider that can challenge Osterhagen the most.
Talking of Osterhagen, what a performance this guy is turning into something pretty special this year. 1-1, again, just complete control of that bike. Whatever the questions are asked of him, he's able to answer them. He's obviously the guy to beat, but I think we need to give a shout out to Fantic as well for the performance they're showing in EMX, both classes. But Osterhagen looks like he could be a very special rider going into the future. He doesn't seem to bother with pressure. He seems to really believe he's the best guy there.
Yeah, part of me was sort of glad to see him go 1-1 and have the perfect weekend, because he was sort of robbed of it there at Matterley Basin with the red flag and then the result going back 2 laps. So now I can say he's had the perfect weekend, and that'll top Matterley Basin. And yeah, Fantic won the MX 125 championship with Bonacorsi last year, and they're certainly looking to, like, they're in a strong position to do the double 2 years in a row. So Osterhagen's a great talent, and he's already done a better riding in the 252. So be interesting to see how he steps up that next year, but he'll have his sights firmly focused in this year first and trying to bring home this title.
Yeah, I think he's opened a lot of eyes as well as to his potential going forward. Kai Korsmaker's very, very good day for him. He just looks a lot stronger this year, but also in terms of his control on the bike, he doesn't look like he's riding the edge as much or liable to make as many mistakes. He looks like he's in control at all times. Third overall for him. A big talent in his youth career. It looks like he's really starting to fulfill things now. He's onto the big bikes.
Finally, he's finally done this. Talent-wise, not in question. Definitely not. He has all talent. Just so many injuries. 2 or 3 years on the sofa watching the racing. It was starting to look like would he ever get to this level again, but thankfully he's had a good, strong winter, and he's coming in, looks a lot stronger, and I think the speed he's always had, so it's not that surprising to see him on the podium. Now he's been able to stay fit. This is only his 6th or 7th AMX 125 race, I think. That's how little races he's had in the series. So to get on the podium, that's definitely not a big surprise, but probably more of a huge relief that his career's finally starting to go in the right direction. Hopefully he can just stay fit for the rest of the season. 3rd in the championship now. And he's actually racing the EMX 250 at Oss, so that'll be his debut in that class. And he's a big lad, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes on the 250.
Definitely, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think he'll be looking forward to that too, because as you say, the way he's riding at the minute, it looks like a 250F should suit him. He's looking very smooth in the 125. I think also we'll have to say Bobby Bruce, he was so close and so far, and that in that first moto he got the start. It looks like he was trying to check out, and then he went down. Now, obviously, that track's pretty dangerous place to crash on those jumps, so I'm glad to see he wasn't injured. But that was a big opportunity for Bobby. He came back 3rd place, 2nd moto. So I think sometimes with the British riders, they're very fast in Britain. Can they do it in Europe? I think Bobby's answered that. Yes, he is. He's fast anywhere. But that first moto will be pretty frustrating for him because he lost a lot of points in the championship. Overall, though, I think he has to stay positive because he showed great speed again, and I think that was the weak question mark maybe even his rivals had coming into Italy, because I'm sure they expected him to be good in Britain, but he's shown he can be good everywhere. It's just matter of staying smart and not rushing things. I know he wants to win pretty badly, and he maybe feels the chance at the win taken away in the second moto at Matterley, and this was his chance to get that win and go for Osterhagen in the championship. But he lost a lot of points there, so now I think just be fast and be calm, and I think Bobby Bruce should be very good for the rest of the season now. That was, for me, a big box ticked, being able to be that fast in Italy on a pretty difficult track to ride.
Yeah, it's a case of the weekend it could have been. I mean, who knows what would happen if he stayed on the bike there in the first lap of the first moto. Fortunately, he crashed and he had to wait for all the riders to pass before the time he could get going. So that made it almost impossible to come back through because it's a stacked field. And so it's just a pity. But yeah, the second moto, it was good to see that he has that pace to bring it home in third. Really good. I mean, before the start of the season, you'd have been happy with a British rider in the top 10 of this class. So I think he showed that he's got the pace to run right at the front. And I don't even think he has to worry so much about the title. He just needs to use this to make him a better rider. And, you know, that's what it's all about, improving as a rider and then putting yourself in a good shop window to maybe get a good AMX 250 ride, or if he's going, or say United Gas can back him in the MX 250, that'll be even better. But yeah, it's good to see him adapt and ride them technical, rough condition. A good weekend all around, really, just bar that one crash. But I don't think he should beat himself up too hard about it.
Yeah, and Smulders rode very well as well. I thought he's from Holland, so that type of hard pack, slick nature at Maggiora, as I said, especially on the Saturday, it seemed a wee bit slicker. So throttle control imperative, and the Dutch guys are used to depending it in the sand. So he was very good, especially first moto, fourth place. Was pretty impressed with him, and Rossi as well, showing decent speed this year for sixth overall. But Smulders I thought was very, very good.
Yeah, both of those impressed me actually. Andrea Rossi had some good rides last year, but Matterley Basin, I think he would have expected more there, so he was able to bounce back from that and to go fourth overall, just missing out in the podium. I think the next step for him is to get on that box because he has the potential. And yeah, Scott Smulders, a former AMX 65 champion, again, he's a rider that's had talent, and he's always seemed to perform better in the Netherlands than he has outside his home country. But I think that'll be a big confidence booster to go 4-6 for fifth overall. Clearly has talent, and if he can start riding that pace all around Europe, he can be impressive. To be fifth in the championship, I think if he can stay top 5 in the championship this year, considering they're all hard pack races, I think he'd be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. He's starting to assert himself well in that class. Anyone else you want to give a mention to before we move on to EMX Open?
Yeah, the RFME Gas Spanish kid, Adrian Monville, probably completely got that wrong, but a rider I don't know too much about, and Matterley Basin, he wasn't in the top 10, so to go 5-9 after some bad starts, very good for sixth overall. He impressed me a lot, actually.
Yeah, and just on that, that's the Spanish Federation, or obviously Federation is helping those Spanish riders out and giving them a platform to show their talent. They did it last year with Brasseras and all. All the riders were actually strong last year as well. A lot of them went to EMX 250, but you have to applaud the Spanish Federation for getting behind their young talents and giving them an opportunity.
Yeah, and the KNMV are also helping Car Schumacher's and Kaz Volk as well. They got involved for this season. So that's 2 organisations. Very good to see, and it's a pity the SCU don't follow in the footsteps on a team at that level. I think it would be good all round, really.
Yeah, because
yeah, it's good.
Bobby's showing he has talent, and there's other. Ike Carter's 18. He's shown what he can do in the British Championship, but he hasn't really been able to get his name out there in EMX. So I think the SCU, the British guys, have talent, and to do something like that would be fantastic for British motocross, because whether people like it or not, you have to do it in EMX. There's no point doing it in the British Championship anymore. While that's a bit of a good stepping stone, that's not going to get you to where you want to be. If you want to be a world level rider, you have to do it in EMX, and the SCU, other countries are doing it and helping their riders, and the SCU probably need to think, and obviously it's going to be expensive, and choosing riders, you're going to get political and offend people, but for the elite riders there, it's I feel they just need a wee bit of extra help to try and show their speed and get their name out in Europe, because Britain have always produced fast riders, but to now the fact they have to really show it in EMX, it makes it more expensive for them, and any help and advice and guidance from even a coach that they could bring on board isn't going to do them any harm.
Yeah, exactly that. it's hard being a privateer with little support to go and do the full AMX series. So I feel like if the SCU did get involved, it would be helpful for all parties, because it's obviously going to bring the level of rider on as well, which will help the SCU whenever the riders racing the British Championship as well. I know the way that RFME do it, they have a few training days throughout the year, and then they have a coach that makes the selection. So something like that would be ideal, and somebody like, I don't know, Justin Mars or Ashley Wilde, I'm sure they would love to get involved.
Yeah, we would like the way the Red Bull rookies or whatever works in road racing. Definitely, I think that's something that would really help British motocross sort of make that jump into the EMX world. But I think we'll move on to EMX Open now. Now, this class is something that was desperately needed, I feel, because with everything under 23 in the 250 categories and then the ridiculous high level of MXGP, for riders that didn't quite maybe get the ride they wanted in MXGP coming out of EMX or MX2 World Championship, there was just a complete void. There was nowhere to go except back to National Championship racing. And you're always going to be at a certain level there because you're just racing in your own country, and teams would always value speed if you're just doing it in your own nation. So EMX Open, I feel, is really, really needed, and it gives riders who maybe just didn't quite make the grade in MXGP a platform, and not just a platform to show their talent, but also just a viable championship and a prestigious championship to win. To win a European championship on a 450 isn't easy, and it's probably going to get more and more difficult as more and more riders see the value of the championship and see the value in being able to get experience on these tracks and show their speed and potentially even be a fill-in rider for a guy that gets hurt in MXGP, or as has been shown, you can even get a ride for the year after in MXGP. So the racing, I thought, wasn't too bad in the EMX Open. Filippo Zonta won both motos, but Nicholas Decor, former EMX 125 star, he's back on the European scene. He was fast in second, and Di Bortoli was fast, especially second moto and third, all on Hondas too. It was just all red up front in the 450 class, but a good class, and I think it can get better. And I think we need to say John Adamson didn't have any luck whatsoever, expecting him to run up at the front, but starts, crashes, just everything went wrong for the British rider.
Yeah, just on the EMX Open and introducing it, people need to remember that, the EMX 300 Championship, when it first started, it got a lot of criticism, but every single year it got better and better and better. And I feel like the EMX Open will go exactly the same. I think already last year, it actually wasn't too bad, the EMX Open. And Karl Kutscher, he's a pretty good rider, won that series. And this year, it looks already a lot better at round one. The only question mark is how many of those Italians will go and do the rest of the rounds. That's the only thing. But for the first round, it was pretty decent series, pretty decent standard, and it was pretty good racing too. Filippo Zonta was an MX2 World Championship rider last year actually, and he decided to race the first round. Whether or not he'll continue to do the rest of the series remains to be seen. But hopefully, all the riders that were there do go and do the rest of the championships, or most of them anyway. It would be good to see because standard was pretty good. And John Adamson didn't have the greatest start of the championship. I'm sure he would have been looking to be in the top five, but like you said, he had very little luck, and at least the bad luck's out of the way now. I'll be hoping to improve at the other rounds. But Nathan Dixon, I thought, had a solid day with 12th overall. He'll probably looking to be in the top 10, but 12th at the season opener isn't bad at all.
Yeah, exactly. I think John will be one to keep an eye on in this class if he's doing all the rounds. He's been very good in Britain, and I think that guy has a lot of speed, so definitely one to keep an eye on. But we'll move across to America now. It was a weekend packed with motocross action, and Redbud, one of the crown jewels in the US national calendar. A lot of fans, so it was nice to see everything pretty normalised. And RJ Hamster came out with the win in the 250 class, but he managed to not win a moto with crashes. He very likely looked like he could have went 1-1. Now he still won the overall, so it still worked out okay. But RJ does like to push the airs, and he does like a crash or two, but you have to hand it to him. He wants to win badly, and he finally got the win. But sometimes you feel if he just rode a couple of percent less, he might be able to avoid those crashes and get more wins.
Yeah, he definitely made it hard work for himself, didn't he? Because he had the speed. He was probably the quickest rider in the first moto, but the crashes to get back up to second in the end, he done quite well. And yeah, he brought home a second for to go 2-2 and win the overall. Although at the same time, he sort of got a bit fortunate with Jet going down at the start. If he had got away, it would have been interesting, because I think you could tell in the first moto Jet's suspension just wasn't quite right. Over the bumps, it was kind of thrown about all over the place, and he had managed to win. And I think if he rode better in the second moto to come up to sixth, and I think if he'd have got away, it could have been a close race between the pair of them. But take nothing away from Hampshire, he rode well on the day, and even though his season's been full of mistakes, he's got himself into fourth in the championship now, so he'll be looking to keep it clean and keep it on the track for the rest of the championship and look ahead now.
Yeah, Jet was fast again, but as you said, he wasn't happy himself with that first moto despite the win. And then second moto, a crash, and he looked like he was going to lose a lot of points in the championship, but he managed to find speed and a wee bit of patience, even despite a very stressful situation, to come back up to sixth. And I think that was a pretty impressive ride despite everything that happened in that second moto. He limited the damage a lot in the points. He only lost, what was it there, three points to Justin Cooper, so that could have been a lot worse for Jet Lawrence. He's obviously he's a big star in America now. He's doing a lot of publicity things, but sometimes that can distract and they become a wee bit more interested in the celebrity. But Jet, he's doing the business on the track, and he seems to be still very focused on that. And I thought he was impressive, because you wouldn't say it was his best day, and he still ended up third overall and still kept the red plate. And for me, he's still the guy to beat just about over Justin Cooper. Justin obviously has more experience, but Jet's maturity is each round he looks to be getting better and better. But Cooper had a bit of a silly crash. He was lucky not to get hurt. The way he crashed off that jump while leading in Moto 1, came back, won the second moto, so he's in good position for the championship as well. And the thing about Cooper is he's on that star Yamaha, so the odds of him getting getting a good start or a whole shot was probably a little higher than Jet, even though the Hondas have definitely improved this year. So those starts could give Cooper an advantage coming down the stretch. If Jet's behind him, it's going to put the pressure on Jet a wee bit more. So that could be Cooper's strategy, to try and put that pressure and see how Jet can deal with it coming down as he tries to get back in the points lead.
Yeah, it was all about damage control at the weekend for Jet after going down on the first lap in the second moto. And it's important to stay calm when something like that happens and just work your way through the pack. The last thing you need to do is have another crash coming through the pack, and then it would just be a complete nightmare. So he done well and rode up. He done well, very well, to get into sixth. As far as I'm concerned, raw speed wise, Jet has definitely got the edge over Cooper, but Cooper's experience and know-how and getting out of the gate, 8 points in it could come down to the wire. Jet just can't really afford any stupid mistakes. Anything can happen, like at the start, so shouldn't be too hard on himself from the second moto. But if he can cut the crashes out, which he has been doing this year, I feel like he's my edge for the title. But it's all still to play for there. With Southwick next, you would think with it getting rough, and you would think Jet would favour Jet because he's got the experience of riding the rough sand tracks in Europe. So hopefully he can just get away out of the gate.
And Hunter Lawrence, was pretty pleased for him to get two solid motos together. It looked like he's had pace this season, but a couple of mistakes early on and trying to get used to the intensity in the first laps have hurt him a wee bit. But I think he did crash actually second moto, but he's still fourth overall, 2 good rides, 3-4. And Hunter looks like he's starting to get stronger now. It wouldn't surprise me for him to get a moto win the next couple of rounds or so.
Yeah, Hunter always rides with his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he? And that leads to a few crashes now and again. But yeah, 3-4, solid day, fourth overall, and third in the championship. I think he would have took that before the start of the season. So all in all, the progress is there. If he can just keep it in 2 wheels, he should get a few more visits to the podium, hopefully, because he has the potential to do that, no doubt about it. It'll be interesting to see if Australia send a Motocross the Nations team this year. If they do, and Jet and Hunter are interested, it'll be good to see them riding Mantova, and what a strong team the Aussies could have as well.
Yeah, if Mitch Evans had been fit, although maybe an outside chance he can be there, that would have been a very good team, because I think Hunter probably was pretty decent on a 450 himself. I thought we were able to move him up. So Australia, whether this year happens for them or not, I don't know, but the next 2 or 3, 4 years with Evans, Beaton's obviously fast. He'll be a 450 rider next year, all being well. The Lawrence brothers and they've good guys in Australia that can always call on as well. So Australia probably looking for podiums, but on a good day, if everything goes their way, a victory at the Destination Zone over the next 5 years I don't think isn't out of reach. Jeremy Martin, very surprised to see him back. He obviously wasn't quite where he would normally expect him to be right at the very front, but 5'3", after all the injuries and ups and downs he's had this year, he's had a pretty terrible season. To come back still very fast, pretty impressive for Jeremy Martin. He just has that wee bit of almost a chip on his shoulder that he likes to have, and very gritty, determined rider. He just gives it all he has every time out, and 5th overall. I think he has to be happy with that under the circumstances.
Yeah, under the circumstances, very, very good. I was shocked to see the press release saying he was going to ride as well. So, I mean, to go 5th overall, 5th in the championship, absolutely take that. Salvage in the championship a little bit by riding. So, and not only riding, but riding competitively too. So, you'll be happy with that, and be interesting to see what he can do at Southwick now, with it getting a lot rougher, you would think.
Joe Schmoda and Pierce Brown were 6th and 7th overall, but they're very, very different characters when it comes to how the ride and get results. Schmoda's just always consistent. And again, 6th overall, solid riding. I don't think he was completely happy with his performance, but 6th overall, Schmoda's been the standout guy for Pro Circuit Kawasaki this year for sure, even though he was a last-minute signing. So I'm sure Mitch is very, very pleased with the young Japanese rider. He just seems like he's going to get progressively better, and next season he'll maybe take another step up. But nice rider to watch. Seems a very nice guy as well, and it's nice to see him, after all the commitment he's put into the sport, to move over to America, leave his home country, very different culturally, obviously, and to be making a go of it and making his name in a big team and big pressure. He's definitely doing the job this year. Pierce Brown, on the other hand, he seems to be very hit and miss. He always threatens to have a lot of speed and get the results, but the results don't always happen. Injuries are coming in, but 7th overall was good for him. It's nice to see him get back up there, and a wee bit of confidence hopefully for him going forward. Max Voland again top 10. So with Styles Robinson and Jalik Smole, so the youth guys they're not exactly James Stewart or Ricky Carmichael, who he is, but they're starting to get a wee bit more pace, a wee bit more consistency, as they've obviously all got good bikes, so they kind of have to show that. But it's starting to come through a wee bit more this year than it was last year for all these riders. Voland as well, top 10s, getting the confidence going in his first year. So the youth are maybe starting to come up in the 250 Nationals for America.
Yeah, Joe Shimoda's under quite a lot of pressure there at Kawasaki, actually, because he's the main guy and he wasn't really supposed to be, but Austin Faulkner, just things haven't been going well at all with him, whatever's wrong. So Shimoda has a lot of weight on his shoulders there, so he's actually dealing with it really well. 6th overall, solid, very, very solid rider, consistent, good to watch. It will be interesting to see if he can make a big step with another winter behind him going into next year, when, going into the season, he will maybe be expected to be the number one rider there. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that. Yeah, Pierce Brown, you're right, up and down, but 7th overall. He just needs to try and build on that now and try and get consistent top 10 overalls. And that would be a good season for him if he can continue to do that. And yeah, Max Voland surprised me, actually. I mean, it was at Mallory Basin in the EMX 125 series last year, and whilst he was fast, I wouldn't have thought he would have been getting top 10 results in the AMA Nationals a year later. So big progress there, and he just needs to keep going with the progress, and he'll only get better as he adapts and learns all about the class and riding those tracks as well.
I'm not really sure what to say about Austin Faulkner. It's been a very, very disappointing season in the outdoor nationals. I know he's been injured and he hasn't raced motocross in a couple of years, but this is pretty much a nightmare for him, and Mitch Payton must be starting to ask some questions, because he's either niggling injuries, or it looks like he's getting tired, or he's riding an okay race. But really, Austin Faulkner's not getting paid to ride okay races. He's not getting paid to make wee mistakes. He should have been a title contender for me, and at least if he wasn't going to start as a title contender in terms of early race results, work his way into it. But he hasn't really worked his way into anything. It's almost gone from bad to worse, and I hope this isn't a sign of where his career's going to go, because I remember when he first came out as a pro, he was one of those guys that was just able to run the elite level pace outdoors and indoors. So I hope he can rediscover that again. Faulkner was always exciting to watch, but at the minute he's in struggle city.
Yeah, it's just been an uphill battle, really, hasn't it? I mean, I would have thought that he would be getting some moto wins, but it's just going bad to worse. And I mean, I thought maybe there was something wrong, but I think the official word is that he's all right. Like, there's nothing wrong there. So it must just be a mental battle at the minute, and the confidence must be low. So, and that's not easy to deal with. But hopefully, for the sake of his career, he can get back on track and get sorted out, because there's no doubt the guy has talent. Obviously, injuries have been hard on him, but hopefully he can get through it and we can come out the other side stronger.
Yeah, that's a big mystery. I'm sure he's scratching his head as well, because he's determined. He likes to win, and he's usually pretty self confident guy. So the 16th overall isn't anywhere near where Austin Faulkner wants to be either. Yeah, I want to talk about his time master pull. For me, that he's on a privateer bike again. He showed good speed, although 15, 16 wasn't probably the results he wanted, but he's just fast. I think he has to be an MX2 World Championship. Why? He's really prioritising 12 outdoor rounds of the US Nationals, and Supercross doesn't seem to be his forte, or at least it wasn't growing up in his career. He was always looking at outdoors. If you're looking at outdoors, you have to be looking at the World Championship. And he has speed. If he got into a good team in the World Championship, he could possibly have a chance of being America's first World Champion since Bob Moore in 1994. And it's baffling to me that isn't his priority if he's a motocross specialist. It really is.
Yeah, he's absolutely a far better motocross rider than he is Supercross, and if that's the case, you need to look at the World Championship, don't you? Talk is he had offers coming into the season, but he rejected them instead in America for whatever reason. He can only answer that question, but yeah, it would be nice to see him come over to the GPs and see how it'd get on. He seems to be a bit up and down at the moment, but he has definitely got speed there. It would be nice to see another American in MX2, just to help even the American interest, as well as it's good to see how they adapt and with the different tracks and cultures and things like that. It's always an interesting watch, seeing how they do. But yeah, who knows what the future holds for him in America. If he decides to stay in America, it'll be a strange one, because I mean, I can't see him being a 450 Supercross rider.
Yeah, Supercross is such a priority in America for rides. You get a good ride because you're good at Supercross over outdoors more often than not. And as you were saying, we were talking to people in Matterley Basin who confirmed they had been talking to Ty Masterpool, and he didn't really go for the GP deals. But I think Ty needs to realize. I know it's difficult even for teams, because they're probably going to have to fly his parents over and get a house, and it's logistically it's not easy for an American to come over and adapt to everything. He's going to need more people around him to get used to all that, and then you have to get used to the track. So it's a wee bit of risk from a GP team's point of view. It's a bit of a risk in terms of lifestyle change for the likes of Ty Masterpool, but I think for Ty Masterpool, he has to believe in his talent outdoors. And if you want to be the best outdoors and have a long career, you want to go to the World Championship. That's where it's at for outdoor motocross, especially if you're not that interested in Supercross, because Supercross is the main thing in America and outdoors is only 12 rounds a year. So if you want to be a motocross rider and that's what you really want to do, you have to be an MX World Championship. And I think he has the talent to be a leading MX2 World Championship rider. So he's obviously getting offers. Okay, they mightn't be what he wants, but if he can make a success in the World Championship, he's going to get paid good, and he has a chance to make history for America. So to me, it's surprising he's not taking that offer up, especially now that he's a privateer in the US.
Yeah, the problem probably has been that he isn't getting factory offers, and you can sort of see why. I mean, the factory teams in GPs, they all pretty much have elite guys tied to contracts. And like you said, it costs a lot of money to bring an American over, because you're not only paying them, you have to find houses and stuff for the whole family to live and then try and get them jobs. So that way it's not easy. And there's a lot of talent in GPs at the moment also, so they probably look to them first before they look to America. But he has had offers, probably not privateer offers, or probably not factory offers, and that's probably what he's after. But, if you go into a team just below the factory teams and ride well, a factory team will spot your potential and sign you. So there is an opportunity there. One thing I would say is F&H Kawasaki's future is going to be very interesting, because Buzz Ramy ages out. Rowan van den Moosdijk, will he stay? Will he not? I would assume he's going to have big offers at the end of this year. So they're in a position where they might be looking for two riders, and KTM, Husqvarna, Yamaha already have the elite GP guys covered. So it'll be interesting to see what direction F&H go in terms
Yeah,
of if they sign somebody already in the paddock or if they look to
a master
America or
pill.
somewhere like
Yeah,
that.
that'll actually be a really good fit for him because he's a good bike. He's a guy like Mark Druver who could teach him the sand, and that team seems to have good people around them. So hopefully, there will be another option for Time Masterpill to at least try the World Championship instead of maybe looking back in 5 or 10 years and regretting opportunities to race around the world, get paid for it, and make history for America. We'll move on now to the 450 class. Some fantastic racing again at Redbud. Dylan Ferrandis and Ken Roxon always seem to find each other, and when they find each other, the motivation seems to go up another 10%. Ferrandis, for me, is almost doing a bit of a Cooper Webb, what Cooper did in Supercross, where he just wants to win so bad, and he's prepared to put it all on the line, no matter what it takes. Bad start, good start. He's finding a way to get back to the front. And credit to Ken Roxon. Sometimes Ken's been a wee bit conservative, which is especially in Supercross, which is understandable after all the injuries he's had. But there certainly wasn't conservative at Redbud, casing that big triple and a pretty spectacular crash. He's hanging it out more than I've seen him hang it out in a long time, and it's actually great to see that desire and willingness to try and get this championship from Ken. But he's now 14 points back. Ferrandis pushed and pushed and pushed, and it worked for him. Ken pushed, and he literally came up a wee bit short over the triple, but also the crash. That crash sort of took him out of it a wee bit, but even then he held Musquin off. The front end looked pretty tweaked on the bike, so I still think it was a good day for Ken Roxon in terms of there's still that wee question mark over his health and can he push right to the end. And I think even at Redbud, despite the crash and I'm sure his wrists were pretty sore from the case of the big triple, he still pushed on and he's still there in the championship. But those two are setting the pace in terms of the championship, and the battle's pretty good to watch. But Plessinger and Tomac were able to get on pace with the pair of them this weekend, and it was a four-way battle a lot. So definitely the AMA 450 class, very exciting to watch at the minute.
Yeah, what about Dylan Ferrandis? Fantastic. The crafty Frenchman. Definitely showing his pace in the 450. I mean, I knew he was going to be good on the 450 this year, but after picking up the injury and stuff coming into the season, I thought he might have needed a wee bit of time, but it hasn't really seemed to affect him at all, really. And it's good to see the Yamaha are giving him the equipment. I know Yamaha has been questionable in the past, but with Star Yamaha taking it over, it's nice to see them run at the front in the 450 class in America. And Dylan looks really comfortable on the bike, and he can do really anything he wants on it, which is good to see. And Ken Roxon, it's so good to see this guy riding aggressive again. Since his couple of big injuries, he definitely hasn't had that aggression. But I don't know what he's done coming into this outdoor season, but he's riding the way he used to. Very aggressive, just going for it and sending it. And yeah, maybe a wee bit too aggressive actually with the Rocco's Leap, casing it and doing it from the inside. Bit risky, and especially it looked like he didn't get the drive, but he sent it anyway, and thankfully he stayed on. That could have ended a lot worse than it did. I'm sure he still would have been sore after it, but definitely could have ended worse than it did. And he ended up having quite a high speed crash in the second moto, but we certainly can't question his determination in the motocross season so far. Anyway, if he showed this in Supercross, who knows, he might have won the title. But 14 points behind, it's still fairly open in the championship chase between those two. And Southwick, with it going to get rough sand, those two having the experience in sand, you would think they'll be right at the front again.
Yeah, Ferrandis, he's making a wee bit like Bentani described Roman Fevre. He makes a lot of wee mistakes, but no big ones. Ferrandis is making little mistakes. Sometimes he's getting into a rut, he's overbalancing or he's cross-rutting, but he's not going down. He's staying in the throttle or just altering his body to save that small mistake and getting on with it. So Roxon probably hoping that one of these days, one of these wee mistakes will end up to a crash or something for Ferrandis, because Ferrandis is definitely riding a wee bit on the edge at times when he sees the need that he has to. Even he was trying to close in on Eli Tomac there at the end. He was doing a pretty good job of it in the second moto, but he probably didn't really have to after what happened to Ken. So Ferrandis right now has the blinkers on. All he's thinking about is winning this championship, and it looks like he's going to be hard to stop unless he ends up crashing himself. Ken Roxon's obviously in the best position to do that, but the way Ferrandis is riding, it's not going to be easy, and Roxon's going to have to call on all that natural talent, the experience that he has now, even though he's still only in his mid-20s, to to pull this title off. But also Aaron Plessinger, he doesn't seem to take anything serious, and then you get him on the track, and he's a bit of an animal out there. He's all charging and all go, and then he comes into the interview and starts laughing again. So Plessinger certainly provides a bit of entertainment after the race, but on the track he's providing good entertainment as well. Led both races. He's a lovely style to watch, actually. Pretty tall and languid and loose on the bike. So he was a wee bit unlucky. He's not been knocking on the door of race wins so far this year. It hasn't quite come for him, but third in the championship, as you say, Yamaha definitely, Star Racing Yamaha, I should say, have definitely got this bike figured out. 1-3 in the championship, and very strong year for them. But Plessinger's been I wouldn't say a surprise because he's a former outdoor champion, but his consistency has been very good this year. And as I say, his determination on tracks, in contrast, his happy-go-lucky attitude off it, but it's certainly working for him in 2021, and a big rebound in a season that he had to rebound in to make his career go forward in the factory team from next season.
Yeah, Plessinger obviously had a very good 250 career, but ever since the Motocross the Nations at Redbud, before this year, whether it was the bike, whether it was confidence, I'm not quite sure, but he just struggled a few years on the 450, and this year he's back riding. Obviously he's always had talent, but there was a question mark coming in this season, and he definitely had to deliver this year, and he's done just that. He's probably saved his career, to tell you the truth. If he had another bad season, would he even have a factory ride next year? But goes to show, one good year and you can turn it around for yourself. Third in the championship, very good to watch, like you said. Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to catch Ferrandis or Roczen in the points, but if he can stay third, that's an excellent outdoor season for him after two very difficult seasons.
And we're starting to finally see a more normal, as it were, Eli Tomac. Won again the second moto, although usually his late race speed, he pulls away from people, but even the moto before, at High Point, late race Ferrandis was pulling him in, and he was pulling him in again there at Redbud. So he's getting these wins, but he's still having to push right to the end, which is something we haven't always seen from Eli. But it's just nice that he's starting to show his true form again and what will be his last year on Kawasaki. So Eli Tomac starting to get the ball rolling a wee bit, but he's got a lot of points to make up now. He's still like 50 odd behind, so not out of it, but he's going to have to hope for a few mistakes from Ferrandis and Roczen and to get on a multiple race win row.
Yeah, after a terrible start to the season for Eli Tomac standards, I mean, he's turned it around pretty quickly, in fairness to him. Should we be surprised? Probably not. It is Eli Tomac at the end of the day. The guy's too good to be battling for 10th. So 4-1, and he's got himself up to 5th in the championship. After a few dodgy first few rounds, I think he'll be happy with that. And now he can just enjoy it. Now he's riding well, and it looks to be enjoying it again. He can just enjoy his last few races with Kawasaki, and we'll see how the championship chase goes. It's going to be very difficult, but I mean, you would think third's probably possible for him.
Yeah, Saxon looked stronger, I think, a wee bit at the start of the year than he is now, so possible for Tomac to get there, and as you said, Plessinger just ahead of that, so everything's still on for Tomac to end his Kawasaki career on a high, and you never know, maybe even he'll end up at the Nations, but we'll wait and see for that one. A couple of riders that have been a bit disappointing. Cooper Webb, 9th in the championship. Again, it's just a so-so ride at Redbud. Obviously, 2-3 years ago, he was an outdoor champion and he could just hop on a 450, as we saw at Nations in the US Grand Prix. He was very competitive. Since he's been in KTM, he just hasn't shown the same sort of, when you say elite level speed, he's just a touch off all the time. Obviously, running the Supercross title takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of commitment mentally and physically. And maybe once you win that, you just take a big, deep breath. And it's hard to really recommit to the same level day in, day out to try and win an outdoor title. I'm sure he's trying in the races. Cooper's pretty competitive, and getting beat doesn't really sit well with him. But when you've won a Supercross title, which is the pinnacle series in America, obviously it's just hard to try and get that same drive and success, and with the ball rolling in the wrong direction, it's going to be even harder to pick it up for him for the last few rounds of this series.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Growing up, I always thought Cooper Webb was actually a better motocross rider than supercross rider, but certainly since getting the KTM ride, he definitely seems to prioritize supercross, and he's won 2 titles, so in that department it's going well, but it's strange to see him being so far off the pace in outdoors. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the future. I mean, he's not happy riding around for eighth between 8th and 12th or whatever. So will he come back for another outdoor season? I wouldn't be at all surprised if he decides to go Supercross only in the future and just prioritises it. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what even the teams do with that, because Supercross is so important now. It tends to be the guys that maybe haven't had the best, weren't really title challengers, with the exception of Ken Roxon here this outdoor season, that are doing well in the outdoors compared to Supercross. Last year it was the same with Cianciarulo and Osborne. So are we going to start to see more guys maybe going back to Supercross only, or at least maybe hiring a guy that's really good outdoors for the motocross season? There's a lot of sort of different things going on at the minute, because it used to be this guy that won Supercross was one of the title favourites for outdoors, and a lot of times that do both, even in the 90s. Even Jeremy McGrath, who was a Supercross specialist, figured out motocross eventually in 95 and won the championship, and looked odds on to win it in 96 until he got hurt. And obviously you've Carmichael and Stewart. Jeff Emig won both classes in 97, Supercross and outdoors. So that's kind of where your mindset is whenever you see these elite guys winning Supercross. You just presume they're going to be good outdoors, but things seem to be changing. Eli Tomac was really good outdoors when he was just missing out in Supercross, and from his one Supercross, he hasn't been quite the same outdoors. So it's a wee bit of a different time in America maybe. Also, Max Anstey, I kind of feel sorry for Max, because I don't think he's riding, or at least the results aren't anywhere near what that guy's capable of. For me, he's capable of getting in amongst that top 5, top 10 consistently outdoors, but more problems with the Hep Suzuki again in practice and in the race. Although I think his speed's starting to come now. It looked like he was a wee bit closer, definitely to that sort of top 10 level in Redbud, but more frustration for Max Anstey. And who knows, maybe Roger Harvey should give him a call, because if you put him in a factory Honda and got him a few weeks solid outdoor testing on that, he could do something back in MXGP once the outdoor season's over in America.
Yeah, it's not been a great outdoor season for Max, has it? And especially at that type of track. I was thinking that would be right up Max's street, but just, well, I mean, he rode okay and the speed was okay, but I thought he would have been a lot closer to the front than he was. But yeah, it looks to be he's having a lot of issues with that bike, and they're trying to get stuff sorted, and while the other riders are out starting their qualifying. That's a couple of weeks in a row that's happened, so it's certainly not ideal whenever that's happening. And yeah, I would like to see him back in MXGP, but I think HRC Honda would need to pay money, and I know that Anstey had an offer for Factory Husqvarna and Factory Gas last year as a fill-in rider, and he turned that down. It's a bit of a shame. I think his strength's motocross, so I would like to see him fully focus on motocross, but oh well, he's enjoying his life in America, and he would have always had that regret if he never went back to race Supercross again, because he obviously enjoys it a lot.
Yeah, the Supercross season was actually good. Again, injury disrupted the first half of that season, but he came back and was pretty solid, made every main event. So I thought he would actually be coming into this outdoor season with settings from last year as a good base, sort of continuing the momentum from a good rookie 450 Supercross, but it hasn't happened for him. Although saying that, he's still 12th, so championship wise it's not actually too bad. But for Max's talent, and even last year coming off an injury outdoors, he showed he could run top 3 when he got the start on tracks that suited him. So I think I was expecting a wee bit more of the same this year, and perhaps even more consistency, but it just hasn't happened for him, unfortunately, yet. But we've got Southwick next week, so we might see Max Anstey back as we know him there.
Yeah, he should definitely be strong at Southwick. That's right up his street. Yeah, he used to ride Lama flat out all the time, so obviously it's not quite Lama, but it should still get bumpy and rough enough and sandy, so he should go well. Fingers crossed he can get 2 good starts and hang it out at the front.
Okay, and I think that's everything covered. It was a bit of a long one this time, but there was plenty of racing over the weekend to give our thoughts on a decent look back at. So thanks for your time, thanks for your comments, and if anyone wants to subscribe, like, or follow all the various podcast outlets, please do. And hopefully we'll be back next week or the week after once we get everything finalised. And speak to you then. Thanks very much, and thanks, Andy. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.